long jump is still my favorite. You know,
Everybody knows Jackie Joyner-Kersee's love affair with the long jump.
yes.
Sports Illustrated called you the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. You have the record, the Olympic record in the heptathlon, the Olympic record in the long jump, and you set those records almost 40 years ago, and they have still not been broken. Do you think of yourself as a great athlete when you wake up in the morning? Is that how you still see yourself?
It's not that I think of myself as being an athlete of yesterday. I am a realist. I understand and even understood during the time of my days of being a competitive athlete that I wanted to be one of the best. So to be called, one of the greatest, I'm very humble and I'm very honored, but I know the importance of people who saw the potential in me as a young girl that I did not know that I had.
Did it occur to you for a moment that those records would not be broken again for almost 40 years?
Right. When I broke the records in 1988, and no, it did not occur to me that they would be there. Well, I don't want to say forever, but would I like for them to be there forever? Yes. But anyway, I knew when I left the sport, I wanted to give my all. I didn't want to come back and say, oh, if I coulda, shoulda, woulda. So when I left knowing that I have given all I could give.
You competed in the heptathlon. Most Olympians go in for one sport. You went in for 7. What's also remarkable about you is how many Olympics you attended as an athlete, how many Olympics you competed in.
My first Olympics was in '84. I got the silver medal in the heptathlon, which motivated me to really not to underestimate myself or my team and my coaches, because I had never been injured before, and I was dealing with an injury in '84, and it got the best of me mentally. And so I left those games with, God blessed me to make another Olympic team. I want to be the toughest athlete out there mentally, because physically I knew I had the ability to get it done. And then come back 4 years later, '88 was Seoul, Korea. Then another 4 years, '92, Barcelona, Spain. And then my last Olympics was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Which also makes you remarkable, because not many athletes compete in 4 Olympics in a row.
No, there's some, but
it's not that common.
You're right. And you get a medal. So.
And oh yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry.
No.
You didn't just compete. You medaled in all 4 Olympics. The background you came from, I don't know how many people know about it, but it was poor. You grew up poor. There was not the kind of infrastructure support that many young kids have around the country who are competing. Describe a little bit what it was like growing up in East St. Louis.
When you're in an environment that others don't quite understand, to you that's your norm, and you don't recognize that something is different until you outside of your norm. At times we didn't have running water, we didn't have heat in the home, and sometimes we didn't have food to eat. And I would find people supporting me, through the community center or through my athletic program. I knew I wanted to run, but you had to have money, and I would try to save my lunch money, and that was only like 15 cents. Every day I would try to save it so I could have money on the weekend. My mother would always tell me we couldn't take anything from strangers. Anything that's given to me, I have to earn it. And so when we would go to our different track meets, the coaches would say, we stop and go get something to eat. And I was like, well, I would just say I wasn't hungry because I just didn't have the money. And they recognize it from the standpoint of not making me feel embarrassed and say, well, we want you to go in there and try to eat anyway. So it wasn't like I had asked them for anything, but they were like, and I was like, oh, okay. And so knowing how difficult it was for my parents, my mother and father were 14 and 16 years of age, and I had my brother Al first. I'm the oldest girl.
They were so young.
Yes, so young, and just really, my father, did athletics, and in the school they didn't know he had a family, why he would miss practice so much, because he was trying to raise, a family. But for us, my grandmother would get a Social Security check, so we knew every beginning of the month, we get a lot of groceries, and then you just try to make things last. But we just had a lot of love in our home. We didn't realize what we didn't have. We was always told to focus on what we had and not worry about the things that we didn't have. And that's the same attitude I have even in my life today, is focus on the things I can control and not worry about the things I cannot.
Jackie, you always loved long jump, and one of your first national championships was in long jump. I think you were 12 when you got your first major competition in long jump. Tell me the story of how you practiced long jump in your front yard.
Yes. So long jump is still my favorite.
Everybody knows Jackie Joyner-Kersee's love affair with the long jump.
Yes. When I wasn't able to go to practice, I would convince my sisters. We would take empty potato chip bags, go to the park where they had a sandbox, and we would dip the sand from the sandbox into the potato chip bags and bring them to my front yard so I could practice on my landing of the long jump. Off the banister of my home, not knowing, never could get enough sand, but it was just enough for me to practice my landing and not let my mother know that we had left the house, because when she would go off to work, we would have to stay at home, and we could only play in the front yard. And the park was less than 100 meters, so we'd go over to the park, get the sand, and then we would and I'd practice long jumping. I just thank God I didn't break anything.
And then, having done all the long jump, having done the track, the irony is that you get a scholarship to UCLA University for basketball.
Yes.
Something totally different.
I didn't think I would play basketball at the next level because I thought I was too short, but not knowing with my jumping ability and my quickness. And when you sell that, it's like, as long as I can find balance and make sure that I would do the two sports, but I really want to make the Olympic team in track and field. So I would try this basketball, because even in high school, our team, 1980, is still the only team that went undefeated in basketball and won the state title, and so they give us some bragging rights.
So another record, another record that you have. Jackie, what was it like going from East St. Louis to UCLA? What was it like just personally making that transition between those two worlds?
The biggest transition was being away from home. I got homesick a lot. I would cry every night, but I didn't want my mother to know that I was homesick. I was like, everything is okay, because I knew it was my decision and I had to see it through.
It's interesting you mention your mum, because of course she was sick.
Yeah.
Your first year of university. How hard was that for you?
My freshman year was really challenging on so many levels. One, I'm diagnosed as being an asthmatic. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my scholarship. I'm playing basketball. Things are going extremely well. I call home, and I'm talking to my mother, and I'm explaining to her about we just played the number 3 team in the nation and the number 1 player in the nation. I had to defend, and I was able to, shut her down, And so I'm pretty excited, but I could just hear. It wasn't that I could hear, but I wasn't. My mother wasn't reciprocating. It wasn't like, oh, okay, that's good.
You knew something was off.
I knew something was off, and so I say to her, how's she feeling? She go, well, she thought it was an allergy. She's gonna go to the doctor tomorrow, but tomorrow came quicker than what I thought. I get the call from my aunt that Mary is very ill, and I had to get on a plane. I rushed back from L.A., landed in St. Louis, drove over to East St. Louis to St. Mary's Hospital, and they're really trying to figure out exactly what's going on. My mother was like quarantined. I wasn't able to go in, and I could see her, but she was in a coma, and she's bleeding from every organ in her body. And finally, she had in the worst form of meningitis. And I had to make the decision, to either leave her, like a breathing machine, with hopes that, she would have life, but it wasn't meant to be. It just went flat, and she was gone. She was 37 years of age, and it was just, whoa, devastating. And so I go back to my aunt's home, and I remember laying in the bed, and I could just see, for me, an image of my mother. And that was the sign for me. I woke up that next morning. I told my aunt I must go back. I got a dorm room. They got a cafeteria, all the food I could ever want and eat. I have a scholarship. And I must, and I got back on that plane, went back out to L.A. to finish what I had started.
You think your mum wanted you to carry on?
Yes, I know my mom wanted me to carry on, because for me it was like, I always say, it's just the whispers of her voice. Even through tough times, I hear that whisper. Because we always talked about real life situations. My mother would always try to prepare me for current events. She would make me read the newspaper, and I was just thinking she was just being why is she so hard on me, Why this? My brother could get away with everything, but I couldn't get away with anything. I often just think about when her and I would go to the grocery store, and the checkout clerk would say, "Oh, I read about you in the paper," and I'm like, "What you in the paper for?" Because I had one event, but
You love mums.
Yes. Yes.
They're the people that can put you down,
right?
Put you back in your place.
Right?
Yeah. Don't get. Now you made me cry. Okay. Poor
no.
Nettie. She's going to worry about anything about mums. My mum died recently, and it's anything about mums. But I love that mums are the ones that can.
Yes.
Why are you in the paper?
Right,
Jackie. What have you done wrong? Actually, it would be. What have you done wrong?
That's exactly it. It's like, then at the time I said, "Oh no, I won an event." What event? I'm like, "What? The track meet, the 400. Well, what's the 400? Then I have to go. Like, one lap around." Yeah.
So you and Al had made a pact. Your older brother Al.
Yes.
Made a pact that you were going to go to the Olympics.
Yes.
Roll around 1984, and the Olympics are in Los Angeles. And the two Joyner kids have done what they said they were going to do. Not just one of them is at the Olympics, but both of them the Olympics. What was that Olympic Games like for you?
For myself, this is the very first time that really on the big stage, because I watched the Olympics as a child and not really understanding the magnitude of the Olympic Games. And it wasn't until I was in the Coliseum and they were having the opening ceremony, and I looked in that Coliseum and saw all the people. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to be here to see us compete. And I'm thinking about, because my leg is injured, and it was just an eye-opener. But then when we both go out and compete in our event, my brother won the gold medal. I missed the gold medal by a few points, and I realized that this is, we didn't realize how special it was for us, because it's like brothers and sisters, we compete all the time, and it's like, well, what's the big deal? That's how we're thinking. But it wasn't until we came back home and they want to have this parade. They want to give you all these gifts, and it's like, wow, this is huge, and how the whole world is watching.
In 1988, you did win the gold.
Yes.
In the long jump and in the heptathlon. What was the difference between Jackie in 1984 and Jackie in 1988?
I would say the difference in Jackie from 1984 to 1988 was that I wasn't mentally tough in 84. As an athlete, you think things are going to be perfect. You don't know how to deal with setbacks. And that setback in 84, I was injured, and even though I could have performed at the same level, but I had a bandage on my leg, so that spoke to me like something must be wrong. But it wasn't. But as long as I believed something was wrong, I performed that way. And that's why when I left 84, I left with that attitude. If God blessed me to make another team, I want to be the toughest one out there mentally, because physically I knew I could do it. So the next 4 years, I trained with that feeling of what it felt like, coming up short because I doubted myself. My coaches, my team, my teammates, everybody was pulling for me more than I was pulling for myself. So when I went into 88, I didn't care what was going on. I had patellar tendonitis. My attitude like, hey, the leg can fall off. I won't, they have to come pick me up. I'm going to give my all. And I think that was the difference.
And Jackie, you went through a lot, because there you were performing at the highest levels for Team USA, winning golds. The country was building you up. You were in the, as your mum found out, you were in the papers. But they tear you down too. They would comment on your appearance.
Oh, yeah, with that, I dealt with.
Race.
You talk about racism, discrimination, you name it. I was a gorilla. I didn't look a certain way. I mean, and these are things that could tear you up internally. And you will find yourself trying to look a certain way to be accepted. But then it's like, I am who I am. It pushes you back, because when you can read it black and white that this person said you look like a gorilla and no one come to defend you, and I'm out here doing the event, the heptathlon, I ain't trying to look, all glammed up and all of that. I'm coming out here to give it my best shot. And my best shot, I think I'm trying to win. I ain't trying to make friends. I make friends afterwards. I'm out here competing because we all want that coveted piece of metal, the gold. And they only have one, and it's 30 of us. Only one of us going to be able to get that. And so that's my attitude.
Let's talk about family. Mm-hmm. You're married to your coach,
yeah,
Bobby. What was it like being married to your coach? I mean, did you talk athletics 24/7? Could you go home and switch off and say, actually, Bobby, can we just talk about the latest TV soap opera? Or what was that like?
In the beginning, it was more difficult for me because I'm 24/7. Sports want to talk about how can I better this, how can I do this, and then driving him nuts in a sense. But I respect Bobby so much, as my coach, because I knew that I'm not the only athlete that he's coaching, that he's coached several of us to world records and several of us to...
He's still coaching an Olympian for Paris.
Yes, to a world record, Sydney McLaughlin. But I learned to respect Bobby, remain coachable, do what we needed to do to get the job done, because the combination of us made for a winning combination, as long as we were on the same page.
We're filming this in your amazing foundation in East St. Louis. You're an athlete who went around the world, got gold medals in the Olympics, and then came home. Was it always, do you think, important to you to come back to your community, the community you grew up in, and look out for the kids who grew up in the life that you had too, in the neighborhood you were in?
Yeah, and for me, the importance of coming back was that when I grew up, I always heard nothing good come from our community, but I knew there were great people there trying to do great things, and I wanted the young people to know that I might not walk in your shoes, but I have walked the same pavement. And you don't have to just see me on the television or read about me, in your social study books or in a news clipping, that you can touch me and you can talk to me. And fast forward, here we are today in the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center. We provide after-school programming, provide transportation, pick our students up from school, bring them into the center to get educational support. I want them to find happiness in whatever it is that they're doing, but understand the discipline that it takes, the focus, the commitment, and never giving up.
It feels, Jackie, like some athletes with an amazing career like yours go on and become kind of celebrities to millions of people around the world. You've come back home to be incredibly important to the people of your community. Was that a choice that you made?
Yes, it was a choice that I made to come back because I think it's just so important that, even when I talk to our young people, they're like, oh, you should be in Hollywood. I'm like, Hollywood is where we make it. Hollywood is right here. You know, and if we're going to grow a community, all of us can't leave, you know, because you would deplete it. And then we won't have a community. And we won't have a place to call home. And I have to always be proud of where I come from. And I remember one time I was doing an interview, and the guy was saying, well, you shouldn't say you're from East St. Louis. It's going to taint you. I'm like, what? How can I not be proud of where I'm from? And that's why I want every young person, every family, through the hardest time, through the most difficult time, is to understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Your longest jump is 24 feet and change, right? And something more. So to get a sense of what that actually looks like, we're going to pace it out, okay?
Okay.
Let's start from this blue line.
All right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, right?
2,
3. We're still not there. 24. So you jumped Jackie Joyner-Kersee from that blue line to here.
Wow.
That's insane.
And believe it or not, I wanted to be able to jump 25, but I never got there. But anyway.
When you look at that distance now, does it still kind of amaze you, or do you think, oh yeah, of course I did that?
You know, I never looked at what I've done in amazement, because I look at it as I was supposed to do that, really. I executed what I was prepared to do. I didn't put a limit onto it. It's like, if I hit wherever I land, that's where I'm going to land.
I think you should show this to the kids just to remind them.
Yes.
When they think you're an old lady.
I'm in the book.
Just look, show them.
Right.
You do this.
I know, because they're like, can we see you jump? I'm like, yes.
But we know you can do it. The greatest female athlete of the 20th century.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, thank you.